All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Steve Edwards with Premier Virtual. Thank you for participating in our webinar today on how to conduct a virtual career fair. So we got some great panelists today, and I'm going to let them kind of introduce yourself. But for all of you that don't know Premier Virtual, we come from the job fair industry. Myself and my business partner put on in-person job fairs for over 9 years. And then we decided to go virtual in 2018 and then couldn't find exactly what we were looking for. So we developed our own software, and instead of putting on our own events in the beginning of 2020, we switched our business model so that people could put on their own events. And we all know what happened in March of 2020, where the world changed and virtual events now became the new normal. From April until December, we put on almost 2,500 virtual events on our platform, with the biggest event having over 15,000 candidates participating in the job fair. So we're here, but we're not the ones that are always putting on. That's our panelists that are here to help you. So let's start first with Danielle. Can you give a quick introduction to yourself?
Sure, Steve. Thank you. My name is Danielle Hart. I am the Business and Development Coordinator for Virginia CareerWorks Blue Ridge. We are a workforce development board, and we have been using Premier Virtual to hold virtual career fairs for employers in our region for about a year now, and have had an excellent experience.
All right. Thank you. And Alexander.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alexander Austin. I'm the Director of Business Services for Employer Prince George's. Employer Prince George's is the workforce development arm for Prince George's County. Primarily, our business model is the broker between the job seeker and the employer. And we have engaged a Premier Virtual platform for a little over 3 months now. Have had tremendous success in our virtual hiring events.
All right. Thank you, Alexander. And Pam.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Pam Egner. I'm a business services person at the Employment Center, Arlington Employment Center. We are a career one-stop in Arlington County, but we work with Danielle and other Virginia CareerWorks offices and the entire region. And we've been using Premier Virtual as well. Sorry, and love it.
All right, thank you. I almost interrupted you on there in the last word, so thank you on that. Now, for everybody in attendance, we have our panelists today come from the workforce development boards. Every month we do one of these type of webinars. It's always here to really help you from a marketing standpoint or something out there. So just because you may not be in the workforce development, maybe you're a private company looking to host virtual events. Maybe you're a college that's looking, maybe you're just another organization or association. You can still take the feedback from what Pam, Danielle, and Alexander do to make it successful for you as well. It's not just about workforce development boards, it's every organization. So I'm going to kind of go backwards on here and say, Pam, how many events have you hosted on the platform, and what do you do to make sure that it's a successful event?
So I don't have an exact number of events, but there have been probably at least 1 to 2 a month since we started. So it's been more than a year, and they have varied. I have helped individual companies as well as we've done statewide events or regional events. So it's been across the board how we've used it. To ensure success with it, I think as an administrator or even as a business, because we often have a booth at some of these events and get to interface with job seekers as well. I think it's important to make sure you have your booth completely full, your jobs in, the links in, as much information as you can provide job seekers as possible. I love preset messaging as a feature as well. So those are a couple of tips I have that let you engage with different job seekers seamlessly and have people get information while they're checking it out.
Perfect. Great advice. Alexander, I know you've only been for 3 months, but how many events have you had, and what do you think that is one of the most successful things that you do to have a successful event?
Absolutely. So we've had 2 events with Premier Virtual, and we actually, believe it or not, from the last event that we have 8 scheduled from just the notoriety and the success that we had. The first thing that we always try to practice is putting together a step-by-step process, which I have to, again, credit to you all at Premier Virtual. You know, when we were using a competitive platform, we had to really go through a full 10 steps to get an employer up to speed and ready. What Premier Virtual has done is consolidated that into 2, maybe 3 steps at the most. A bulk of the work is done on our end, where we're asking employers to give us everything we need: logos, job descriptions, making sure everything's up to date. We get them registered, and then once they're registered, the autonomy for, as Pam was saying, to the employer is really, you can go in and create your booth, make sure it's set up. So we're just checking that off, where, you know, we would take maybe 10 days, 14 days to get an event set up. We're talking about 48 hours from the time we agreed to scheduling to having everything up and running. And our last event, we had 10 employers. Everybody was registered. Everybody, I mean, there were no flaws. We had about 150 people join who registered in about 48 hours. So, I mean, it was very successful. So for us, it's really, again, making sure that we have a blueprint, utilize the trainings that you all have provided, make sure that the employers are educated on what they can and cannot do, and leverage our resources. I talk to Jordan all the time. I'll reach out to Jamie all the time if I have questions, to make sure that we're providing the service to our customers and that we're also administering a great event.
All right, thank you, Alexander. And then Danielle, same question to you. How many events and what do you do that makes it successful?
So I think we probably hosted about 20 to 25 events, both with our region for individual employers and then also coordinating with our Virginia CareerWorks partners across the state to host a couple of different statewide ones. And we've had over 15,000 job seekers registered on the platform at once. So we've had some pretty successful hiring events thanks to the team here. And I think building on what Pam said, one of the best ways to make them successful, especially for your job seekers, is that continued follow through with your employers when you're helping them set up, making sure that their booths are built out fully, that they have links and logos and all of those things, because on our end, we see consistently that the job seekers engage more with those booths that do have the logos, that have their links, and they do not when those booths are not manned or not properly staffed out. So just really following through with the employers has been super helpful for us in our events.
Perfect, thank you. You know, all three of you kind of mentioned this, you know, Danielle, 20 to 25 events in less than a year that you've been with us. You know, Alexander, you said you've only had a couple, but you have 8 scheduled off of that. And Pam, you're about 2 a month. You know, and the one thing that, you know, we really talk about here at Premier Virtual, there's 2 things that I talk about. One is flat rate pricing. So it doesn't matter how many attendees you have, that 15,000 event, you didn't get charged extra because you had too many candidates on. And if you want to do an event, you know, Alexander, you said 48 hours that you had something up and running, you know, that's another thing that we talk about is unlimited events. You, especially as a workforce development or a private company, sometimes you want to put something on and you don't want to wait 10 days or 14 days or 10 weeks until you can put your next event on. So, you know, the unlimited events that you can put on, there's no limit to that. There's no limit to the candidates, right? We're not, you know, out there trying to make sure that you're, you know, we don't want to limit you, especially in what you do, because you may have a company that shuts down tomorrow and you have to put an event immediately on there. So great. Now we have a question in the chat, and this is actually one of my next ones. So I'm going to kind of keep this open to all of you. In the chat, how do you get the message out to the broadest audience so that you can maximize your visibility and participation? So I'm going to guess that's both for the employer side and the attendee side. So we'll start with whoever wants to start with it, but I'd like all 3 of you to give a little bit of input on that as well.
Absolutely. Well, so I can go first. The first thing we do internally is develop a publication or flyer that will go out to our network, our partner networks. That's included with other county agencies, through our social media, local economic development, Chamber of Commerce, other partners that we may have around the region, Career Services Department, which is frontline with all of our job seekers. We send it there. We post it on the Maryland Workforce Exchange, which is a statewide job bank. We post it, you know, really Facebook, social, Instagram, you name it, it's there. And really it is word of mouth, but we also have targeted lists that we go after. So for example, if we're dealing with a specific industry and we have job seekers who have recently obtained or in the process of attaining a certain credential in that industry, we definitely want to target those job seekers first and get them registered, number one, in the Maryland Workforce Exchange, but also making sure that we're doing matches with the business on the Maryland Workforce Exchange so that employers already know, hey, we have these job seekers that are going to be attending. And then in the system, they can also take a look at the resumes because they're already uploaded.
Great. Danielle, Pam, can you guys jump on that as well?
He asked me this morning and I.
Yeah, just what Alexander said, and it does depend on the event a little bit. If it's, you know, an event for, let's say, we did a job there for young adults, like we have a teen expo every year. We did that this year. Normally it's in person. We used Premier Virtual for that. So obviously in this case, I was targeting parent groups next door, the schools, any of the listservs the schools have, some of the organizations for the young adults here. But normally social media, any way you get anything, even if you're doing an in-person job there, the advertisement is kind of, or the marketing of it is very similar. So college boards, there's, you know, places you can also post things. So when college students were coming home, I made sure I was putting our events on those sites as well.
Absolutely. Danielle, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, so Alex did a pretty great recap, and we actually advertise our job fairs very similarly. But one of the best ways we get attendees to our events is collaborating with our workforce partners, our folks at the Department of Social Services, our training providers in the area, local community colleges, like Pam said, college boards. Our partners have been our biggest advocates in getting us attendees to our job fairs. So we typically send out a huge email blast to them, letting them know that it happens, and then they send it out to all the job seekers and folks that they're working with, and then that just kind of naturally builds from there.
All right, great. Have any of you ever had your clients or the organizations that are participating post on their social media as well? Perfect. You want to make sure that, you know, for everybody in attendance too, it's your advertising. But if, you know, ABC Mortgage is going to be there, have them post on their social media, hey, come see one of my recruiters, as well as the 50 other recruiter, you know, organizations that are going to be at this job fair today, because now that gets out there as well. So now it's not just you doing all the work, it's getting them to post on there as well. Now we also have Rakeem. Pam, did you want to jump in real quick?
Yeah, I was just going to add with that. Sometimes I'll go on Twitter and I'll tag the company on Twitter, and then they will retweet it. Where if I just said to them, hey, will you tweet this? They might not get to it. But when I am on the platform already and have tagged them, it's easier to get a retweet.
Oh, great advice, Pam. All right, Rakeem, thank you. I know you had a little issue coming in. Do you want to just kind of introduce yourself real quick? And I asked a question, everybody, is how many events have you done on the Premier Virtual platform? And what's one thing that, you know, you make sure that is successful to make sure you have a successful event?
Yeah, absolutely. And sorry about the complications there. My name is Rakeem Vick. I'm the recruitment marketing manager with Sasser Workforce Solutions. We're here in Raleigh. We hire at all 50 states. So we have a lot of jobs in this. This platform is perfect for us. I've been with the program Premier Virtual. We started in May, and we've managed to put together 7 events so far.
Right. And you're a recruiting firm, correct?
Yes.
All right.
We are. And what tends to work for us is it starts internally. I know you guys were talking about, just your social media platforms, but just getting, just everyone on board with what we have going on. And kind of like you said, Pam, with the engaging of tagging people, if you could start out internally, getting everyone to post it on their social media to different, Facebook, if it's Facebook market groups, just different groups, different communities, you getting people to post it, and then you tag them, and then they repost it and they share it. And, next thing you know, you have a community of people that's already shared, the hiring event before you even, started your marketing to the actual people who's going to attend. So I would definitely say internally is one of the stronger ways to go to get the message out.
Perfect. Great advice. Thank you, Rakeem. All right. Do any of you send reminders, and how often do you send reminders to the candidates and the organizations before your events?
Yeah, so we definitely send reminders depending on the timing of schedule. But almost as a standard, it's always within 24 to 48 hours of the event, and also the day of the event. We had, like I said, we had tremendous registration within 4 days of the event. But even we were still registering applicants the day of the event, all the way up until the hour of when it ended. So the enrollment still happens. We had people that were interested, last minute coming in, and we have some success stories from that as well.
Absolutely. Now, have anybody else want to talk about reminders?
Yeah, if you don't, I encourage you to do a text campaign as well. That seems to reach, a lot of people. Of course, you're going to do your email campaign and you'll blast that out. But if you could switch it up, like you said, Alexander, the day of with the text campaign, it's something different, something they haven't seen. You tend to reach more people that way as well.
Yeah, and also with reminders too, when you get in, you don't have to have a long, detailed email. You can just say the subject line is reminder, job fair you registered for today or tomorrow, because some of these people are registering for job fairs a couple weeks out and they don't put it on their calendar. So if you remind them, and then the text message reminder as well that same day is, the job fair is live, log in. Something very simple. You don't have to have a lot. Now, within our new system that once we launch it, you guys will all be able to see, we built in text messages and email reminders for you. So all of that is going to be in there. So they get a 24-hour reminder, they get a 1-hour reminder, they get when the event goes live, they get an email that says the event is live, and they get a text message. As long as they opt in, they'll get a text message that says the event is live. And then if they haven't logged in with an hour to go of the event, they get another email reminder. Hey, we see that you haven't logged into the event. So as we did that on text messaging, we saw the testing, as we saw the percentages of login, really go higher. Next question, I'm going to start with you, Pam, on this one is, you guys obviously have done a lot of in-person events. Have you noticed your numbers for in-person? What is your login ratio compared to what your show ratio used to be for in-person events? Did you guys ever track that at all or no?
A little bit. And I think what's hard to kind of compare those things is, as of late, maybe a lot of us have seen, job seeker interest seems to have waned somewhat than maybe a year ago. So in this area in Arlington, Northern Virginia, sometimes we almost seem to have a shortage of enough workers. But so depending on the event, and we've done, Danielle can attest to this, we've done statewide events here. So it's hard to track who from Virginia Beach logged in versus Roanoke, Virginia, so those big events are hard to kind of track. I don't think the no-show, the rate of showing up or what have you, seems pretty similar to me from what I remember with some of the smaller events we've done. So this is more convenient, but when we first started last year using the program, it was pretty high. So a lot of people do like the convenience of being able to log on, check things out, submit questions, things like that.
Absolutely. Have you, anybody else want to jump on that question too?
Yeah, so we averaged, our in-person events averaged about 40% attendance. And, with the two events that we've actually seen an increase about 15%. We're about 55% attendance ratio right now.
Great.
Yeah, obviously, we have 8 more, so we'll know a lot more in the future. Initially, that's pretty good. I mean, we were anticipating, 150 people, maybe 50 will show up. We had greater than that. And we had a lot of active participation. So it wasn't just that people were showing up, they were actually participating. And the platform gives us that statistic. So
the reports, that's the key that's out there. I remember, when I was doing in-person events, you would try to go up and find out how many people did you talk to, how many resumes did you receive, how many interviews did you schedule, and you couldn't get that data, and that's where a lot of the data came from. So I'm glad that, Alexander, you kind of touched on that. Have any of you as the future, right? We know kind of virtual is here to stay. Has anybody have any plans for hybrid events yet?
Actually, yeah.
Oh, sorry, Alex, go
No,
ahead.
no, go ahead, Danielle. I've been talking. Go ahead.
So we have used Premier Virtual for some hybrid events before where we have actually done an in-person open house with an employer, but actually conducted the resume collection, initial screening, and video chats with the candidates through Premier Virtual. And we've also had some people use it as a resource fair event. So I think as we are moving to some more in-person things like that, that will begin that hybrid method of drawing candidates to the platform, using it to interact with them and screen them, and then really move to those higher level in-person events with those candidates.
Perfect. And then on your hybrid events, did you have organizations that were on both sides, or did you have where some were only online and some were in person? How did you work the hybrid events?
So they were on both sides. So like I said, we kind of set it up with the initial registration, the initial interest gathering of candidates. They register through our event on Premier Virtual. We have the employer, and we, Virginia CareerWorks, also staffed it, and we connected with all the candidates that registered. We talked to them, collected resumes, and used the platform and those video interactions to gauge who the company wanted to move forward with to bring in on person. So they were involved from the virtual end and from the in-person end.
Okay, great. Anybody else done a hybrid or have a hybrid scheduled?
Yeah, so we actually are going to do a hybrid event similar to what Danielle mentioned, where we're going to do some pre-registration, but also one of the things that was on the table was space availability and capacity. We've had live events in the past where we just didn't have enough room for all of the job seekers and the employers. So this could be a way where we have certain employers, but then depending on the industry, if it's more of a general event, those employers that are a little bit more tech savvy and prefer to have a virtual presence, we can create a situation where there's a virtual room. And for those employers that like to be more in front of the job seekers, they can have a space there. So we can actually have job seekers go from being in a live event and then actually going to a virtual room and having another interview session with an employer who may not have a location in this area. For example, Tesla, Amazon does, but Tesla, Facebook, they have recruited in the Mid-Atlantic for quite some time. They're in California. So they may not have a presence, but they may want to attend or at least offer some information at the session to recruit.
Absolutely. We were on Friday, one of our clients, Tech Hub here in South Florida, which is a big technology association. They had an in-person job fair on Friday. They also had the virtual component going on at the same time. So it was interesting, and I don't know if anybody saw on our social media, it was posted this week where I was there at the in-person event taking pictures with the organizations that had their in-person booth plus their virtual booth set up. So we were seeing, and some of them had a person at the table working the virtual booth as the other ones were working the in-person booth. Some had the virtual booth with somebody at another location back at the office. They were working the virtual booth that they had. So they had it at the same time. And now some organizations had only the virtual booth. They didn't even have the in-person booth. So as you're looking at, the hybrid events, I like to say virtual is the future, but hybrid is now. Hybrid is not going to go away. And I think you're going to see, the organizations that are out there, and some organizations don't want to travel, or they're not in that location. Like you said, Tesla or Facebook, they can now recruit. Virtual events opens every company to recruit anywhere they want to now. So they can have these booths anywhere that they want, but they can still have the in-person. So you're going to see a big flow of that. And then there's the data, the candidates that, may not feel comfortable. They read the news and they see, like here in Florida, it's all over. COVID cases are on the rise, the Delta variant's there. So people now are starting to say, do I want to go back out? Right. Do they want to take that chance or not? Right. And I hate to say that because it always sounds like the fear mongering out there, but this is just the news that's out there, is where they're seeing it. It was, it's interesting. This weekend, I looked at the newspaper. I went to our local grocery store, and it had the Palm Beach Post and the Sun Sentinel, which is Broward County and Palm Beach County, which are right next to each other. And on the one it said the COVID cases have doubled. The next paper right next to it said COVID cases have tripled in the last month. So it was two newspapers that are right next to each other that had two completely different stories about where it was at. So people are seeing that. People are looking, say, hey, I can just log in, right? From the organization side as well as the candidate side. So, all right, we're almost halfway done. So a few more questions. We talked about it. Rakeem, with you being, a recruiting firm and hiring across the country, have you guys thought about virtual events, or is that just not something that really is in your wheelhouse?
You said virtual events?
I'm sorry, hybrid events.
Okay, I was gonna say we're all over virtual. No, so we are in the process of, as things are opening back up. We've talked about it because we want to be in a position where, say if we had someone local that say we needed, a team of 20 merchandisers to go to this warehouse, we want to have that team, locked and ready to go. So it's definitely something that we've been thinking about. We just have yet to pull the trigger on, but it's in the works with just us kind of communicating around the office.
Absolutely. Great. Now, if you had to, and I'm going to give each one of you kind of a, minute to 2 minutes to say in this. If you had one thing that you would want to tell the audience about Premier virtual events, how to make it successful, whatever you want, what's the one thing that you would want to tell the audience listening to you, the experts? We'll start with Danielle.
Oh, all right. That's a big question. But I think the one thing that I want to tell you is if you have any questions or, you're kind of on the edge about if I want to do a virtual event, if I want to move forward with Premier Virtual, 100% absolutely move forward with it. Virtual events have been amazing for us and for our teams in connecting our job seekers and the employers during the pandemic. The team at Premier Virtual has been phenomenal to resolve any kind of IT issues or answer any questions, helping us host an event with 15,000 job seekers. So it is the absolute easiest thing to use, easiest thing to set up, and makes a world of difference in this day and age that we are living in when it comes to connecting those employers and job seekers. So cannot recommend it enough.
All right. Thank you. Alexander, what about you?
I would say trust the technology. Trust the system that it will be able to fulfill a need that you have or provide a solution to any query that you may have in registering hiring events. As Danielle had mentioned, customer service from the group at Premier Virtual has been outstanding from our perspective. They've always been available to answer questions. But one thing that I can say that I've really loved about the platform is it answers questions for you in just the tutorials, the trainings, the step-by-step guide, how to register. When you're thinking about it, it literally is answered. And so trust the technology, go through the system, look at the way and the trends of recruiting and workforce, and you'll see that virtual events, as Steve was saying, is a part of the workflow and the recruiting process going forward.
All right. Thank you. Pam, what about you?
I think it's funny. I think we have similar answers and we did not plan this. I was going to say, really get to know how to use it really well. I like to be able to answer questions for employers. And because we're using the virtual platform, I'm not the primary person. So I've been able to troubleshoot a lot of things. So like Alexander said, trust the technology, use it, use what they provide to answer questions, and also using your rep who supports your account. I've had to call ours several times and say, here's what a company wants to do. How can we make this happen with something that's kind of out of the box? And we work on it and try to see what we can tweak and make happen.
All right, thank you. Yeah, that's what we have. For the people out there, is we have a dedicated account manager for each one of our clients. So they're gonna train you. And Pam touched on is she's not an expert. My team is the experts on there. So you can always reach out to us. We do trainings. If you choose to, we can do a training for your organization so they can have that. So if you want to have, before you have a big event, you want to do a training session so that your organizations can come in and see, we can run that for you. So, customer service is there for you as well. Rakeem, what about you? What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, so I'll just tell everyone out there to, truly take advantage of Premier Virtual, right? It's an awesome platform. It's something that you're paying for, but really take advantage of, everything. The fact that we're on here with you and you're leading this, how many CEOs is, at the front for just giving out, game on how to better your company. I would say really take advantage of the guys that you have the opportunity to speak with. When it comes to, building your booths, give examples, don't be afraid to say what you're thinking or what you vision, because it's a good chance that they already have a booth with a different company that they could just show you and you can say, oh, wow, that's the one I like. That's what I had in mind. How can I do that? Right. So really take advantage. Like, no question is a dumb question. No idea is a dumb idea. Just really, pick everyone in your office brain, say, look, if we had a platform that could do XYZ, what would you want it to do? Right. And write that stuff down and go back to your rep and say, hey, look, this is what we want to get done. How can we do it? Once you do that, you'll really get the most out of Premier Virtual. So I encourage everyone to, just take advantage of the platform and, the guys that's running it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Rakeem. All right. We got a couple questions. So you guys, I'll read the first one. Can you give me a kindergarten description of how a virtual job fair works? I know what it is generally, but not specifically. How do you determine resources needed for the event, etc.? Actually, can I have either Danielle or Pam answer that one? Because of the event you did with the large one in Virginia with 15,000 candidates, can you jump in and kind of give a flow for that?
Sure. So from the very start, we decide we're going to host a hiring event. We schedule our day and put that in the calendar. And the first thing we do is we go and we build that event in Premier Virtual. And there's a wizard that walks you through the event build and setup. And you just follow the wizard. Very easy. Takes about 10-15 minutes, if that. Once you've got that event built and set up, then you have links for your employers and links for your job seekers that they use to register to either create their employer booth or their job seeker profile. And what we do is typically we start our employer marketing first, send it out to all the employers in our contacts, some of our economic developers and other folks who do a great job of sharing that with their employer contacts, and we get them registered. And they also have a wizard that walks them through their booth setup and makes it a very easy, straightforward process for them. Similarly, we start marketing to our job seekers and send them the link so that they can set up their profile and create everything. As we get closer to the day of the event, I check all of the employers' booths to make sure that they have job postings, that they have links, that everything is working, that it looks good, and make sure that they don't have any questions about walking through the event or what it's going to look like on the day of. And then, as we've said, we send lots of text and email reminders to everybody to get them logged in to make sure they have that on their calendar and that they're not going to forget. And on the day of the event, on the administrator side, there is really not a whole lot for you to do, because at this point you've done all the work in getting everybody registered, everybody's there, and then it's on the employers and the job seekers to log in and interact with one another. So I stay close to my phone and my email so I can be tech support or connect them with that next level at Premier Virtual. But that is kind of a quick start to finish overview.
All right, perfect. Anybody else want to touch on that? Pam, Alexander?
Pretty much like Danielle said, on the day of the event, job seekers log on, businesses log on. And sometimes we've had people that have a job seeker account, and they'll go in and we're just kind of use that to check, make sure things are working. We're in touch with our rep as well on those days. But yeah, and usually we send a survey out afterwards, things like that, too, to find out any feedback.
All right, perfect. So I got a text question and a question in the chat that kind of talks about the same thing. Is what type of training, if any, do you provide for your job seekers and how to maximize the tool? How do you get the job seekers to attend? And it was kind of the question I got a text to me was, do you offer any type of resume review, career coaching, or like a value for their engagement to the event? So that's a long question. It's a lot of it, but really we'll go job seekers. How do you get them to attend? Do you train them? And do you have any resources for them in the event? Alexander, you want to take that one, and Rakeem?
Definitely. So essentially, when a job seeker is registering, if they are not already registered in the Maryland Workforce Exchange or have come through our Career Services Department, we immediately refer them to the Career Services Department. We do have an attendant that is there within the booth that we have set up that will answer any questions and also redirect them to get them registered in Maryland Workforce Exchange, provide resources and questions and answering about just some of the different training programs that are available and resources available to job seekers. Now, in terms of training, so one of the things that in the first platform, the first version of the platform, there was a video training. So as we sent the welcome letter or just information about the hiring event, we would include the video training that was initially sent to us in the link. And then we would also have a 1-hour training the day of the event that was actually hosted by Premier Virtual. So that made it easier for us where I think, let's say if the event started at 11 o'clock, at the 9 o'clock hour, we would have a training video or training session for employers. At the 10 o'clock hour, we have a training session for the job seekers so that all the questions could be answered, kind of go through the platform from the experts who can kind of show the job seekers and employers the best way to register, some answer different questions in terms of challenges they may have outside of what we already have sent out to the audience.
Yeah, and just to piggyback what Alexander said with the video, right? That Premier Virtual is already prepared for the candidate, just making sure that I have that video in a visible spot. So when a job seeker clicks on your program, your profile, they'll be able to see that video and watch that video to have an idea of, what's going to happen in the event. But the next thing that we like to do on our side is when we're sending out emails, we give them a description of what's going to happen in the event, what's going to take place. So that's one thing that I like to, just make sure that they understand when they get into the lobby. For example, when you do get into the lobby, you're going to click this, button to converse with the chat bot. So they will know exactly what's going to happen. So they're just not, in the lobby waiting for something to happen. They kind of have a very good idea of, what's going to happen once you're into the lobby.
Yeah, and that's, that kind of touches, and this kind of touches on a question, Sarah, that you had, about some of the reminders and stuff like that. So when you're sending out the reminders for the event, and if it's through Premier Virtual or you're sending out your own, your first one that they get, you could have some best practices in there and a couple of things that are of what's going to happen on the day of the event so that they understand what's happening. Now, what's going to happen in 2.0 when that comes out, that's what we did. So the thank you registration that they get when they register for it is going to have the link. It's going to have the name of the event in the subject line so they know what the email is coming for. Thank you for registering for ABC event. Then it's going to have in the body of the email, it's going to have the training video so that they can see the training on how to set up their booth or set up their profile, again, orgs or attendees. And then they'll have some best practices in there as well and what to expect. And then when they log into it, they can see in the FAQs and best practices, kind of that information that's in there. But from everything that, an organization, we can send out certain things. And what we did is we took what our hosts were sending and put it together and said, okay, here's what they want to see. So we sent it out because unfortunately, all the hosts on here are great. They send reminders, but not everybody does. And then they say, hey, we didn't have a great turnout. Well, you started, marketing your event a month before the event, and people registered a month out, 3 weeks out, 2 weeks out, but then you never sent them a reminder and they didn't put it on their calendar. Today, what happened is 15 minutes before your event, you got a reminder that popped up that said you have an event today because it came right to your calendar. If those candidates don't set that up, they're not going to remember. So you have to send that out. And so what we did is we said, okay, for all of the hosts that don't set it up, we're going to do it for you. We're going to make it easier for you because you have, again, enough to do in your daily job. So by saying, hey, I have to set it up. What day do I send out this reminder and do everything? I wanted to be able to take that work off of yours so you don't have to do it. So once that's live, you'll see it and you're going to know when you log into the system, you know when the emails go out and you know what each email says that's in there. So again, we're making it based on you so that you don't have to do additional work that's out there. Another question about geo, kind of geo targeting and stuff like that, geo fencing. I don't know if, with you guys, if any of you do anything like that. Does anybody here do geo fencing? It's not, on the job fair side, that is something more, that you would get with, your marketing company that would go out and target that specific area that says, hey, I want to target somebody. We've done it before where there's a trade show and you geo fence around the trade show, that information so they see the ads. For the people that don't know geofencing, think about when you look at something on your phone and the next thing you do when you log into Facebook, the next time you have ads on there, right? Because it's all the algorithm, it's all tracking you. What geofencing is you can target an area, like let's say a hotel in Orlando. You could target that hotel so that when people go in and they start logging into their systems, they could now see your logo and an ad that's in your system as well. So, all right, any last, all right, looks like we got one more question here is, how do you motivate employers as well as the job seekers to get the most out of the event? Job seekers are sometimes not the most positive or motivated due to everything they're going through trying to get a job. Great question. I know that's one of those gray line questions where, right, job seekers can be frustrated, that they're not finding a job. The good news is 2,500 events that we put on, we've only been asked one time to have somebody removed from an event because of something they said. So when you look at, over 300,000 candidates on an event, and only one time somebody got asked, and actually, once they emailed us about what was said, we said, here's what you have. And it was, it wasn't something negative that they said. Just one of the recruiters just wasn't used to somebody that has a record asking at a job fair that being, hey, I have a record. Do you hire somebody with a record? So it wasn't, and then the host realized, oh, yeah, that's not something that we could, take somebody off the event. So out of all those candidates, all those events, we've never really had anybody, but is there a way that you motivate job seekers during trying times?
You know what, Pam, before you do, I'm going to just chime in as the marketing guy. And some of the resources we've been working with are career coaches and resume review services. So, for candidates that come and maybe leave a little bit less underwhelmed, maybe they didn't see the opportunity, there could be an issue with the resume, right? I think the best part about the virtual job fairs is you get the chance to speak directly to the recruiter, which they may not realize that that's also part of it. You get a chance to speak to the recruiter. It's more than just submitting the resume. But I think if you guys haven't explored things like that, a career coach, maybe it's a webinar on best practices for video interviewing, things like that are not just about the connection with the employer and the employee, but adding value to the employee or the job seeker, regardless of the outcome of getting a job or not at your. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you, John. All right, Pam.
Well, I was just going to add this, this isn't necessarily motivating job seekers, but the wonderful thing at the end of the job fair is that you can generate reports. So frequently I will send my employers who attended the event a list of, they can pull those themselves, but I'll send them a thank you and a list of who attended with their emails and things like that. And they'll go back and look the next day. Knowing that employers can have that list and email and contact of the attendees is a good way to also motivate job seekers to at least try the event, because there could be some follow-up. And like John was saying, if our people, that our candidates, customers have gone to the event and they work with a career coach, we can follow up and get feedback and outcomes, things like that, if they've applied and followed through.
Perfect. Thank you, Pam. So that's great advice, and hopefully that was one of the things that, Glenn talked with you about as well. Because if you look at the reports when you have it after the event is over, you see here are all the job seekers that attended, how many booths they looked at. But you also have all of the jobs that the organizations posted and who submitted their resumes. So when you go and send that thank you email to ABC Mortgage, you can say, thank you for attending. Here's how many people visited your booth, you chatted with, all this information. And here's everybody that submitted their resumes to you as well. So please follow up with me and let me know who you hired out of that, right? Because that's really kind of that end number that everybody wants to be able to, to find out, especially on the workforce board with what you guys have, is you can give them that information. And then 2 weeks later, you can send them another email. How many people out of these did you hire? And that's something that's there. Now, nobody that's on this call, but, Massachusetts, we're doing it for them right now for their Moses system, is we built our open API for them. So the data from our events is now going to go flow right into their system. And, that is always something that most workforce development boards have all asked for. But the state is always the one who says, no, they don't want the systems talking to each other. Massachusetts was the first. Colorado asked us for it as well. And now we have one of the boards down here in Florida that because their Employ Florida won't let it talk, is they figured out a workaround. And we're actually working with them right now of how they pull the data out of their system, and then they can track it on our system as well. So once we have that for you as well, and that's tested, that's going to be tested over the next 90 days. I'll let everybody know here, because I know that's at the board level. That is always the data. Everybody wants to go from their system to whatever your system is. So perfect. All right. So that looks like that's it for the questions that we have here. So, I just want to, all the panelists, thank you. If there's anybody that's here on the, that's still on the platform that wants to see a quick little 10-minute of what Premier Virtual looks like, that hasn't seen it, you're welcome to stay on. I'm going to do just a quick little 10-minute demo to show you what the system is. So you guys can all stay on there, but Danielle, Alexander, Rakeem, Pam, thank you so much for your knowledge today. I know everybody is taking notes to get this. We always get feedback after these, thank you. We do this so that our clients can talk to other clients to say, what are you doing to be successful? We always want to make sure, right? Not everybody has the secret sauce, but when you start putting everybody together, they can learn it because they're not an expert and they want help. And then potential clients can see out there as well what we do for our organization. So again, thank you to everybody that's on here. If again, anybody wants to stay on to kind of see a little bit about our platform, I am going to do a quick little 10 minutes. So again, all my panelists, if you guys want to jump off because you've always seen it, you can jump off. Everybody else, I'll start here in about 1 minute.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Jamie, John, Jason. Appreciate it. It's a pleasure to meet everyone.
Thanks again, guys. Appreciate you all being on.